So there was a drug cheat and the fight got called off. All that weight gain, all that weight loss, even eggs got used as an excuse on why they found drugs in someone's system. Fast forward a couple of years and the fight's back on. More weight gain, more weight loss. Rules are being bent and changed. Eggs are being slapped in people's faces. Don't forget the war of words. And last but not least, whose dad's going to be actually attending on the night? Look, so much has been going on for the lead up to this fight, and I can't wait. But before we get to fight night, I'm going to go through everything that's been going on thus far right here on A Dash of Sports. Hi there, guys, and welcome to A Dash of Sports. I'll be your host and presenter, Dashiki Dash, and this is where I talk about all things sports related, hot topics, and trending stories. And before I get into it, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, press that notification button so that you don't miss out on any of my content. And without further ado, man, let me jump straight into it. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. April the 26th. It's going to be this weekend coming. And I cannot wait for this fight. Like many others who have grown up watching boxing, obviously, if you're of a certain generation, to be fair, you will know about Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. One of the best rivalries that you will get in boxing, not even just the UK, in boxing in general. So it's befitting to see that, you know, after all these years, you know, another generation, you know, Chris Eubank goes by that monarch. He goes by that title as next gen. So this is a whole different generation that's gone past, and their sons, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, are now going to fight each other. And that's literally how it's come about. Basically living off their father's name, and rightfully so. You know, your fathers will pave the way for you. But when you think about it, Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, they've decided to really follow their dad's footsteps and become the professionals that they have become. Look, I've always been excited by the prospect of this, and I'm going to go through my own opinion based on being in favor of this fight. And then also I'm going to cover the whole aspect of why many have deemed this, fight a farcical, like a bit of a sham. It shouldn't happen. Rare tear. Okay, let me just start off with me. I've been intrigued by this fight. I'm of the generation, not going to expose my age. I'm of the generation of watching Chris Eubank Sr. versus Nigel Benn 1 and 2. Eubank Sr., winning the first one. Very, very close fight. If you've not watched it before, YouTube is available. Go and watch it. And then the second fight was a draw, but many people thought that Nigel Benn won that second one. So that's been pretty much the feud. That's been pretty much the beef between the two. More so, Nigel Benn really not feeling Chris Eubank Sr. Chris Eubank Sr. was kind of the fresh guy coming through and trying to take Nigel Benn off his throne, essentially. And Nigel Benn didn't like that. You know, they duked it out in the ring, and Chris Eubank Sr. got the better of Nigel Benn. And Nigel Benn's never been able to avenge that loss and that controversial draw. But now we're talking about like 30 years later or so. We've got the sons fighting. Now, why I said I was happy for this to happen, because ever since Conor Benn has become and turned professional, that's always been the talk. Like, what if Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. or Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fought just like their dads? It was almost like a what if moment, innit? Like a Marvel what if, kind of a fantasy matchup. Although, coming up through the ranks, they've never really been the same weight. So it was always seen as like, it's not going to happen, innit? Because they're not the same weight. It's not going to happen. But it's 2025 now. and we are about to get the fight that many people who kind of fantasized about, but didn't think it would happen, and it's gonna finally happen. April the 26th, Saturday, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I tried to get a ticket and I was unsuccessful. But I'm going to be watching it on TV like many others who have not gained the opportunity of going there to watch it live. I know the atmosphere is going to be crazy. Plenty of people are going to be singing Sweet Caroline. Da, da. It's going to be popping, and the undercards are also decent as well. Anyway, so that's basically like, you know, where the history is coming from in regards to both of the offsprings fighting each other. They're basically trying to carry the family name. Now, there's a lot that's been said in regards to these guys fighting. Nigel Benn's 100% backing his son. He's up for it. He wants his son to fight. He'll be supporting him. He'll be in his corner. Chris Eubank Sr., on the other hand, he is categorically said that he does not want no parts of this fight. In fact, that he's even trying his utmost best, excuse me, his utmost best to even try to get this fight abandoned, stopped. He's tried to use his influence. He's gone on many platforms to kind of, you know, blackball this matchup. But since the wheels have been turning, there's been no stopping it. And when I said there's been no stopping it, you got to remember as well, they were meant to fight 2 years ago. 2 years prior, the fight was all set up at a lower weight, if I believe. I think they were meant to be fighting at 157. They're fighting now at 160, which is a lot of what Chris Eubank Sr. was worried about and was saying, like, you know, Junior shouldn't be coming all the way down. I think Junior must be fighting at 164, 67, any of those markers there, and he's bringing himself down to 157, which is, you know, very dangerous if you know about losing weight, cutting weight. Many people have been hurt due to doing this, and then obviously Chris Eubank Sr., being that he's been involved with tragic situations in the ring. Michael Watson being in a situation where his life completely changed due to a punch to the head, which is very sad situation. And these things do happen. That's why when it comes to boxing, you know, the line often that is said is like, you can't play boxing, you can't mess around with boxing. Boxing is a dangerous game. So this is why rules, this is why weight classes are put in place to protect fighters, because these are fighters, isn't it? Like, they would want to fight at any given opportunity, like no matter who it is. But you got to have weight classes. But anyway, they found a situation where they found a catch weight. But like I said, originally they were meant to fight 2 years ago, but the fight got called off due to adverse findings of drugs, some type of fertility drug that was found in Conor Benn's system, which, you know, Conor Benn categorically denied that, you know, he took drugs or was aware of drugs being in his system. But the fight got called off anyway. But all that work and effort, money, time, everything that was put in on Chris Eubank Jr.'s, you know, half, left him in a real bitter mood. Not only just that, but the fact that there was so much like snaky behavior around the whole drugs thing. A lot of situations where it felt like they were trying to cover it up, still trying to get the fight to go ahead. You know, Eubank Jr., once he got all the facts and everything that he needed, was still on it. The user's like, all right, cool. Like, if he's using drugs, I want to teach him a lesson. But in order for me to fight, I need £1 million, dollars. He needs 1 million. Conor Benn's team, Matchroom, they refused. They were like, nah, hell no. So that was kind of the last straw, and the fight was off officially. So 2 years that kind of messed up Eubank Jr. in that time. Eubank Jr. fighting Smith, getting knocked out. Got a rematch, won the rematch, but it kind of tainted, especially his record. And what he used to say is the chin. The chin was a granite chin. It never got touched, and then it got touched. But since then, 2 years later, Conor Benn, obviously, I don't know, did he serve his ban? Because he was out of the ring for a while. I guess you can see it in a sense where he was saying, pleading his innocence, fighting his case. Apparently, he got it's reported that he got the all clear. Whether people want to believe that or not, because it was over about 2 years or so, then he gets the all clear, gets a couple fights, not looking too great, but puts on a decent performance. A lot of people saying that he looked a bit different, less powerful, and that could be due to the fact that the drugs are no longer in his system, allegedly. But who knows? But anyway, fast forward the 2 years, now the fight is back on. And this is what I was saying, that the wheels are in motion. The first fight got called off, but there was always gonna, bring it back and run it back and try and get that fight going. And the money's been put down. Supposedly Chris Eubank Jr. is even more happy now because the fight is probably worth like 4 times more than it was previously. Now it's being held at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is a massive and fantastic stadium. I am an Arsenal fan, but I can admit that. There was talks even that they were trying to get it in at Wembley. So it just shows you the intrigue. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium holding 60,000 plus, and then you got the likes of Wembley that can it can go up to 90,000 depending. So there is a big, massive intrigue in this fight. And many other people are feeling like me. They want to see this fight. They want to see what the offsprings are gonna do in it. You got Chris Eubank Sr., Nigel Benn. They did their thing, and now you got the offsprings. They're gonna do their thing. Now, there's one thing that I will say is this: I feel like there is a much bigger push on the Benn side. Especially the way Conor Benn's been acting, very angry, and I want to render him unconscious. I want to knock him out. I'm taking this personal. I really believe when it comes to the Benn family, because they're more or less like 2-0, because I think they consider that draw, the 1 loss and a draw, they consider that as 2 losses. I think Nigel Benn's always wanted to get his revenge, and because he can't do it himself, obviously Conor Benn's about, and I feel like the Benn family will not rest until they beat the Eubanks. And it's quite sad, because if it doesn't happen, then does the Benn family, Nigel Benn, Conor Benn, do they hold on to this for the rest of their lives? Sometimes I think to myself, are Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr., are they cool? They go on tours, they talk about their legacy, they talk about like how entwined they are in terms of their careers, in the ring, outside of the ring. Sometimes it feels like they're cool, they've gotten over it, they've buried the bad blood, the beef. But I'm not buying it, man. Hey, Nigel Benn, whatever he's instilled in his son has now come to the point where these guys, the Benn family, will not rest until they get a W over the Eubanks. That's how I feel. I might be wrong, but that's the energy I'm getting from the Benns. Eubank, obviously, um, he's prideful. Um, I think maybe he's coming from a stance of more or less like, Conor Benn being younger than him. The beef is there. Obviously, he also wants to represent his family. He doesn't want to let the Eubanks down. They're coming from a place of a bit of a higher ground in terms of that, that win that they have on the family name. So he ain't gonna want to let the Eubanks down either. So he has to fight and defend his honor, fight and defend his family name. So that's the motivation for him. And then the money. the money. It helps. I can't lie, man. I believe he might be getting about 8 million for the fight. It really, really helps. But it's shrouded with a little bit of, I don't know. Obviously, they got to make it to be a seemingly fair fight. Chris Eubank Jr. Is the heavier of the two. So I think they're fighting at a catch weight of 160. So they got to try and make it fair. There's the rehydration clause. It's going to be very difficult for Eubank Jr. to get down to the 160. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he sticks with the rehydration clause. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Eubank Jr. keeps to that, because if he doesn't, he gets fined. And is Junior willing to take the fine? Personally, and I've been chatting to my friends about this, we think that he's going to take the fine. He's going to put on the weight that he needs to put on. He's going to take the fight and then just get into the ring and do his thing. Kind of maybe in a situation where it's like, I'm going to make you pay regardless for what you've done. Because Eubank Jr., and I was talking about the motivation just a while ago. The motivation now, or the new motivation, is to really teach him a lesson, because Junior feels like if you was prepared to fight me and you was on the juice, what was your intentions? And that's usually the case, and the question that's asked to many athletes, especially when it comes to combat sport, that when you are on drugs or you've been caught taking drugs, what has been your intentions? Like, the sport is dangerous enough, going into the ring, trying to render people unconscious, stealing Conor Benn's lines there. So you got to take that personal, innit? So you're trying to get into the ring to harm me, you know what I mean? And we've seen so many examples of people being hurt, harmed, losing their lives, becoming disabled, all that kind of stuff, brain damage. So Chris Eubank Jr. is just like, nah, man, you're going to have to pay for this. And then, the aspect of wanting to teach the kids out there. They always use that line, in it. I want to be a prime example of a clean athlete. I want to teach the kids out there, like, there's no shortcuts. So it's going to be interesting to see. Both of them have got their motivation. Both of them have got their reasons on why they've taken this fight. But, the core of it has stemmed from the names alone. Eubank Jr., the Eubanks, and then you got Conor Benn, Nigel Benn's son. Both of them at this juncture of their careers. Conor Benn being a younger fighter, I believe he's like 28 or so. Then you got Eubank Jr., 33, between 33, 35. So it's going to be very, very interesting. There was another thing as well. Chris Eubank Sr. was on a show on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the show that I watched. They introduced the fight as a legacy fight. And he's like, what are you talking about, legacy? So it's not a legacy for them. Obviously he's talking about himself now. Like, I created a legacy with Nigel Benn. We created something, but for them, this is a farce. This is a nothing, and I agree with that to a certain extent. I agree with the fact that we all have to create our own legacies. We have to all create our own moments, and that was Chris Eubank Senior and Nigel Benn's moment. They created their own legacy, but it stemmed from competition. One fighter thinking that he's better than the other, and vice versa. Um, the stage that they were at their career, what they achieved, the titles they achieved, all of this. When you got two fighters fighting for the number one spot, that's what it's all about, innit? That's originally what you want. Now, I'm not gonna come from a moral high ground and stuff. I like to see, beefs being settled as well. But to say that that was their legacy, where the offsprings are coming from, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, they're coming from what was created, the path that was created. Now, the parents, more so Chris Eubank Sr., Jr. can't help but do what he's seen his dad do for many years. Likewise for Conor Benn, So they're the ones that have instilled this in them. They've quote unquote created monsters, and then when the monsters are ready to attack and do their thing, you're now upset on how they're doing things. Times have changed. A lot of things that Eubank Senior's complaining about, like the decorum, the respect. Junior is making a mockery of boxing, like all of these kind of things. Conor Benn is swearing too much. Like, come on, man. Times have changed, man. I know that most times boxing is considered the gentleman's sport, but it's not. It's not a it's not a friendly sport, is it? So, we've seen it on many times. Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, we've seen Herbie Hyde, we've seen Lennox Lewis and Rockman, and many, many others that have had mad beefs. David Hay versus Tony Bellew, mad beefs before fights. And that's just the nature of the game, man. Like, these guys are angry, quote unquote animals, ready to get in a ring and just beat the living hell out of each other. So to kind of ask fighters when they're in that game mode, to kind of be all prim and proper, yeah, for you, Senior, it's easy. Maybe you don't get rattled like that, but for other people it's not that easy, in it. So to ask of your son to be a certain way, or maybe to be exactly like you, I think it's a bit unfair. But what I will say in terms of being a father, and I totally understand being one myself, you want to look out for your kids, and you're going to do everything in your power to look out for them, whether that is by the way of supporting them, even though you know that they're going down the wrong path, or making a stand by saying, it's like, I can't support what you're doing, and I will not be part of something that that I have a strong feeling about, that could be causing you harm, but then I'm involved. You don't want to be part of something that, if your son got injured, or worst case scenario, something bad was meant to happen, you're not going to be able to forgive yourself. So I totally understand where Eubank Senior is coming from in regards to wanting to protect Junior, but Junior's a fully grown adult man, stepped away from a big shadow, his father's shadow, to kind of pave the way for himself and create his own legacy. And unfortunately, Senior has to just make his choice, make his decision upon things, stand on the on the side of where he feels he wants to be at, and that seemingly is that he's not going to be attending the fight. He's not going to be involved in the fight. I think many people want to see him there. Chris Eubank Jr. wants him there, but doesn't want him there under the guise of like, oh, he wants him to be his coach or give him advice. I don't think it's a boxing thing. I think Junior wants him to be there just like, yo, dad, be there for me, innit? Presence. And that is actually the sad thing about it right now, because you can see that even as grown as you can be in your 30s, you still want your dad to be there for you. You still want, you know, the people that you love to be in your, you know, quote unquote corner. But then we see on the other side, Nigel Benn is completely behind Conor. Benn has so much confidence. That's another thing, man. Another thing that I've, you know, that's just kind of been getting me a little bit. The confidence that Conor Benn's got in himself. Listen, I rate it. He really believes in himself. There's question to, you know, who has he fought? What decent fights has he been in, and why he has so much confidence. Some people might, you know, the saying allegedly he could still be on the juice. I doubt it. There probably is so much of a stringent kind of, you know, drug testing that's been going on. I'm sure Chris Eubank Jr. would have been asking for extensive drugs testing. So let's just see, man. Conor Benn is very, very adamant that he's gonna deal with Chris Eubank Jr. in within about 6 rounds. I don't know where he's getting all this, you know, vibe from, energy to even think that. But listen, this is boxing, man. All it takes is one punch. So I'm gonna, you know, I was gonna say I was gonna reserve my thoughts, but I'll give you my stance on where I am with these two fighters. I like Chris Eubank Jr. I'm a fan of Chris Eubank Jr. I feel like he's done amazing to come out of the shadow of his dad. I think he has done that. Some may differ in that opinion, but I feel like he's created a lane for himself. I believe that he's done brilliantly to promote this fight. You know, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, the egg slap. Egg on your face, egg on your face. Hey, I loved it. And that's what we want to see, man. And the new generation kind of want to see that entertainment side. The fight is not for titles. Many fight fans have not really, you know, at the beginning, their opinion was like, oh, this fight is a bit of a farce. But, you know, fast forward until now, everybody wants to see this fight now. So, you know, kudos to Chris Eubank Jr. for doing his thing. And, you know, he's got his dance partner, Conor Benn, who's, you know, been entertaining as well. So this has been a really good build-up, and I can't wait to see both of them fight. There's a lot on the line. The family name, pride, you know, egos, you name it, is there. And this is without a title. Come on, man. How can you not be excited about this fight? The only thing I don't like, just to add, is the rematch clause. Being that it's not a title fight, it just should be like a, you know, one bang, thank you, man, fight, and that's it. A winner takes all. So it's going to be very interesting. So to say on which side of the fence I'm on, I am Team Eubank. I'm not really a big fan of Conor Benn, man. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. He kind of irks me a little bit. Sometimes I think to myself, like, where are you getting all this confidence from, man? Like, I feel sometimes he sounds like a bit of a spoilt brat, like, you know, but I'm not going to do too much in regards to my opinions on Conor Benn, but like I'm Team Eubank. I want Eubank to win. I feel like it's not to say it's only right, but considering the size difference, the weight, the experience, Eubank should be winning. He should be winning. At the same time, if you're not capable and if you don't win, yeah, that's it, man. You gotta ride off into the sunset, collect your P's. Thank you for your service. Ride off to the Las Vegas sunset and go and do your gambling. Is he that big of a gambler? Is he that big of a gambler? I don't know, man. But yeah, man, let me know how you feel about the whole build up. Let me know how you're feeling about the fight coming up this weekend. What's your take on everything? What's your take on Chris Eubank Sr. not feeling the fight? What's your take about the two fighters, about to get it on this Saturday? And let me know who you reckon is going to win. That's what we want to know, man. We want to know who's going to win. And, I can't wait for Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. And once again, like I said, my prediction is for Chris Eubank Jr. to win. But listen, I can go on forever and a day about this. But let me know what you're thinking. Put your comments down below. And yeah, all I got to say is enjoy the fight. Until next time here on A Dash of Sports. Peace.